First and foremost, I'm a Winnipeg Jets fan. You know, I love this team. I bleed for this team. I've been here since the first game against Montreal back in 2011, and I'll be here until the last game when they leave again or when I'm dead. Like, I am with this team forever. I'm always going to be a Jets fan. So if you don't like my opinions on the Jets, that's fine, because they're just my opinions. And at the end of the day, I really don't care if you don't agree with me, because I just want to share my thoughts on the team that I root for. I say all of this because there are going to be some hard truths in this video. At the end of the day, you know, the Scott Arniel hire, a lot of people had their opinions on it when it happened. I, for one, didn't really care. I didn't want to judge him too much until we saw, you know, the season kind of start up, training camp and whatnot, and kind of what the lineups were going to look like. Training camp has come and went, and we are pretty much at the exact same spot we were at last year, minus Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, this team is shockingly identical to the team that got eliminated in 5 games in embarrassing fashion to the Colorado Avalanche after having an incredible year where they were 4th in the NHL. And on top of that, you have no prospects making this team. Like, Hayden Fleury is awful, and you're trying to tell me that Elias Samuelsson it doesn't deserve to get an opportunity, doesn't deserve to get an NHL debut? Or what about Brad Lambert, Nikita Chibrikov? Nikita Chibrikov did everything you could do to earn a roster spot for an NHL club and was incredible in the preseason, in my opinion. He wasn't some flashy all-star guy out there, but he played his game and he played it perfectly. All of these guys were promised an opportunity, pretty much. You know, Chevy talked about how he saw opportunity for young guys. Arniel, all summer long, was talking about advanced analytics, improving the power play and penalty kill, adding youth. And Brad Lambert isn't on this team to start the year. But Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele are going to be reunited again after we know that is one of the worst analytical first lines in the NHL. Like, I'm sorry, but if you still, you know, have all this optimism for this season coming up, then you are a far more optimistic person than I am, because I look at that shit and it's laughable. Like, they just blatantly lied to everybody. Chevy, I see an opportunity for the young guys. You know, Arniel, we're going to look at youth. We're going to look at advanced analytics. We're going to look at improving this club. And we're going to roll out the exact same thing that really didn't work last year and down the stretch really started to fail. Like, the Jets down the stretch were not a good team. The only time the Jets actually really got going or were the best team in the NHL is when Kyle Connor was injured and Ehlers was on the top line with Scheifele and Velarde. Then things really heated up and they set a record. They tied the franchise record or set the franchise record win streak. Like, I'm sorry, but when you look at that and you look at what you're icing this time around, it's a joke. And yeah, I think he'd still finish for first in the NHL. Anything can happen. Like, I'm not a wizard. I'm not a genie. I can't predict the goddamn fucking future. But at the end of the day, what I can do is look at the facts and look at history and see what, you know, happened last year and look at what to expect this year. You know, Nikita Chibrikov should be on this team. And the fact that we've been having this conversation at this point about him not being on the team to start the year is ridiculous. And the same goes for Brad Lambert. Like, if you were going to talk this way throughout the entire offseason, at the draft, throughout free agency and whatnot about young players and opportunity, yet you knew you had veteran presence on contract that were going to plug up those spots for prospects to really get into, unless they were Connor McDavid out there, then why didn't you trade some of them? Like, are people really going to be able to look at this situation and think that Nikita Chibrikov, you know, Brad Lambert, and Elias Samuelsson shouldn't be on this team over a guy like Kupari? Like Kupari, Morgan Barron, Mason Appleton, Alex Iafallo, Hayden Fleury, Coughlin? Like, are you serious? Like, all those are the guys that are better at hockey and are more important to the club in the long term and right now than embracing these guys. Like, I'm not to mention the cap savings you get from moving on from terrible contracts in your bottom 6, but just overall efficiency. Like, Alex Iafallo was one of the most streakiest players last year for us, and at that cap hit playing on the 3rd or 4th line, like, you gotta be joking me. He's not it's Matthew Perreault all over again, and I liked Matthew Perreault, but I did not like that contract. Like, I'm sorry, but these lines, like Connor Scheifele and Velarde, yeah, there's talent there, but it doesn't really work that well. Perfetti with Nemestikov and Ehlers? Nemestikov is your second-line center? Are you kidding me? Like, I'm sorry, but this is just more of the same. We saw this effect after Paul Maurice stepped down and Dave Lowry took over, and now we're seeing it with Rick Bowness retiring and Scott Arniel stepping up. It doesn't look like a different team whatsoever. The only thing that I can say about positively like a positive influence that Scott Arniel has had so far. I think that I could say, like it's tough. It's like the penalty kill and power play, and on top of this, no young guys making the team after both of them said that, and then the whole Rutger McGroarty situation happens, and then on top of it, he makes Pittsburgh. So Rutger comes out, says all the stuff about Winnipeg and the lack of opportunity. He makes the team, and Winnipeg doesn't give a single one of their prospects an opportunity. Like, I don't like Rutger McGroarty, and I think the whole situation with him is bullshit, but that looks terrible on Shovel Day Off. Like, it really does, because it just proves a young player right about the Jets. Now, the power play looks great. But as he's saying here is absolutely true. Triangle stuff on the power play is great. Like we're talking about this negative about what's going on with Scott Arniel. I might as well talk about some good. The penalty kill and power play vastly looked improved in this preseason compared to where it was last year at the end of the season. Well, I can say that confidently. So, maybe we'll have a better power play and better penalty kill, and we better, because the guys that we're icing are definitely not going to be the most competitive 5-on-5 and stats-wise that we have in the league. Like we're already going to be icing analytically the worst top line in hockey. Like, I know you're going to be like, well, how could you say that about Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele? They're not bad players whatsoever, but sometimes chemistry just doesn't flow a certain way, and it's been proven with Scheifele and Connor. Vilardi is a very skilled player, and using both those guys in the penalty kill this year is, in itself, a very interesting concept, so I'll give, Arniel credit for that, but at the end of the day, keeping them on the penalty kill, they're going to play together, they're going to play first line together, like, I don't know. Like, I'm excited to watch Adam Lowry play. I expect a big year from Adam Lowry and Nino Niederreiter. I think these guys are really going to step up their game from last year. I think the third line is very well run. Lowry is a perfect center for there, and, it would have been nice if that was maybe the fourth line, and you ran 4 scoring lines or 3 scoring lines for once, and updated to the modern NHL. Well, that's fine, too. Like, I expect Colin Miller to have a great year. I really do, honestly, but, 10 maybe double-digit goals from a third-pairing defenseman, that's we're talking about minor things here, guys. Like, I'm sorry, I want to be more optimistic, and I'm going to be completely real, I was so much more optimistic last year, because I didn't expect the Jets to perform that well. This year, I thought the Jets could be even better than where they were, and they needed to pick themselves up after that embarrassing first-round elimination, and they didn't do any of that. The definition of insanity is repeating the exact same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Name something else that exactly describes the Winnipeg Jets the last 5 years. It's sad. And I just don't know what's going to happen anymore. Like, I want to be here and be like, oh, season preview. I'm super excited for tonight's game against Edmonton, guys. Let's talk about the future for this upcoming year. But I'm sorry. Right now, my optimism is at an all-time low because everything that we were, talked about from coach and management has seemed to just go out the fucking window before even game 1. Like, the penalty kill and power play looks like the only thing that they've improved and maybe used some advanced stats on. Outside of that, the lines, they do not look good. And I'm sorry, but, like, getting back to the playoffs, getting back to this atmosphere and winning in this atmosphere is all that matters. And I just don't know why the Jets refuse to actually, put in the effort to update their team and make the tough decisions to get this team going. Like, at some point, you have to wonder, why is management doing this? Why is Chevy doing this? Because it just doesn't make any sense. This team has all the potential in the world to be good. Like, even with Mark Scheifele, even with these guys, like, I'm not hating on Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. They're some of my favorite players in the league and some of the most underrated, but together they don't work. So you just drop one guy down and you bring Ehlers up. Like, these aren't rocket science, tough decisions. These are just basic coaching decisions. Like fuck, I'm not, this isn't rocket science, guys. And when you see this type of behavior, and the gaslighting, too, from Arniel about everything that fans wanted to see from a new coach being hired, they go with Arniel. Arniel pretty much, like I said, gaslights the whole fan base into thinking that he's going to really implement new elements to this team, and the only thing that looks new on this team is a rebooted power play and penalty kill with the exact same personnel, pretty much. Like, yeah, the skill's there and they can be good, but I'm sorry, but it's going to take a lot more than a good power play and penalty kill to, win consistent hockey games down the stretch. They weren't able to do it last year. They weren't. They were a great first half team. The Jets are always a great first half team, and they piss it away in the second half post All-Star break. And not to mention the whole second line center situation. How have I not even really dived into that yet? It's a joke. Like, it's a complete joke to have Nemestikov playing on the second line as your center. Like, what, you're gonna trade for another first round pick to get a rental at the deadline again? Like, it's pathetic that is how the Jets have to operate to put skill into the top 6. Like Paul Stastny, Kevin Hayes, fucking Cody Eakin even. Like, God, like the way that this team approaches that spot and who they view as the guys to elevate this club. Like, Monahan was great last year for 13 goals. But even then, he wasn't that amazing as a two-way center, and he struggled at times and was slow. And, look at Toffoli pickup. Toffoli didn't put us over the top in the playoffs. I thought he would. He just didn't have that connection. And it sucks. It sucks. Because this team could be so much better if they just tried to change it up a little bit. Like, sometimes that's all you need to do is just a little shuffle. You can run back the same type of squad, but you got to implement a new system. You got to implement a new, just deployment of your lines. And the Jets they don't do that. Like, I don't know how anyone could sit there and look at the same lines from last year that got us eliminated in the first round pretty much, minus Monahan, minus Dylan, and yeah, that's like the other thing too. Like, I'm saying all this, like, people are like, oh, this team was great last year. This team was great last year, and now going to this year, they don't have a 2C to start the season. They don't. Nemestikov is not a real 2C, and more importantly, like, the defense is a lot weaker right now. And if Hinola gets better and healthy and he has the season that I think he can have, that's great for the Jets. But, like, he's still injured and we don't know when he's coming back. And what, Stanley's going to be the next guy up and that's going to make a big fucking difference for us? Like, I'm sorry, but this is just ridiculous. Like, I don't do rants like this anymore. Like, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, usually I have my videos and I talk over the edits and slides and everything like that. I stopped having slides prepared for this about 5 minutes ago now. Like, I'm talking from the heart because I'm just sick of this stuff. Like, I hope I'm wrong. I hope somehow the Jets have a great, awesome first season and they light things up and they win the cup. Like, obviously I want that. I'm not trying to be some negative Nancy and bring everyone's expectations down, but my expectations are low because everything that I expected to be different from this team, like everything that could have been different about the same squad going back, your play styles, your lineups, your systems, none of that is different. None of that is different. The lineups are the exact same. And no prospects are on this club. Like, I'm sorry, but that's a joke. Mark Scheifele played, 8 or 9 games back in the inaugural year and was sent down? He couldn't have done that with Brad Lambert. Ville Heinola got 6 games. Probably could have played the whole year that year because we iced Anthony fucking Potato that year. So, how many games did he play after he left Winnipeg? Not a lot. You can check that. So, why are we doing this now? Why are we not giving the young guys the opportunity after we said we would? Why are we not, changing up the lines and going with the better analytic options with the guys already on this team like we said we would? Like it's just, all of this stuff was already talked about. It should have just been a given. But they just said all this to shut the Jets fans up at the time because they weren't making any big trades, they weren't going out in free agency, and they didn't really have any plans to improve the team, and their roster. It was pretty much go with what we got. And I hope maybe Brad Lambert will fucking be the next Connor McDavid. And if he's not, we'll send him back to the A. Like, I don't know what else you want from these guys to earn a spot. Like, they're not going to be better than Mark Scheifele out the gate. They're not going to be better than Kyle Connor out the gate. They need time to get to that place. Kyle Connor wasn't Kyle Connor out of the gate. Neither was Mark Scheifele. They need to play in the NHL to become NHL stars. So, I don't know why sending them back down to the A. Calling them up in December. That's when, the team should just try to ice its best foot forward from game one, not in December with injuries. I'm tired of that narrative. It's stupid, and it's old school. I'm sorry, but the Central Division is tough this year. Did you see what Nashville acquired in the offseason? The changes that they made? And they almost caught us last year. Hell, they almost beat Vancouver in the first round. And Vancouver was a good team that almost beat the fucking Edmonton Oilers. Think about how tough those matchups were and how crazy they were compared to what we got from the Jets. And the Canucks didn't even have a goddamn goaltender. They had an AHL goaltender, and he was amazing. And Connor Hellebuyck couldn't stop a beach ball in the first round. Now, again, this isn't a Connor Hellebuyck rip video. Connor Hellebuck's the GOAT, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Absolutely. I'm not saying that whatsoever. What I am saying is that at some point, you got to change it up. And it is getting far past the point of accepting this team for what it is. So, I don't know. I don't know what else they can do. I don't know how much more they expect Jets fans to honestly take this. I don't know why so many Jets fans are still taking this, because it's laughable at this point how they expect season tickets to improve this year after saying all of that stuff in the offseason and then implementing none of it for the home game. So I expect to see the headlines again from the NHL world about low ticket sales in Winnipeg, because why would anyone all of a sudden have a change in heart from where they were last year? If they didn't have faith in the team last year, at the start of the year, why would they have faith in the team this year after they lost a lot of key players? And the defense lost. Nate Schmidt was your extra defenseman last year, and you lost Brendan Dillon. And Hayden Fleury is going to be that guy? It's just, and I know injuries suck, and it's no one's fault, but come on. Why are you icing a guy that's going to be out of the league in a year potentially over a prospect that could be influential for your team for years to come? Makes no sense to me. So call me an armchair GM all you want. I could give two shits. At the end of the day, these decisions just contradict everything the Jets say, like usual the last couple of years. So hopefully the Jets have a fun regular season. I get to have some fun games to talk about as a fan. But if things stay this way going into the rest of the season and going into the playoffs, even if they get that far, then I expect more or less the same result. So I hate to be a negative Nancy, but I don't even know if playoffs are on the table right now. And if they are, it's a wild card spot. So temper your expectations and buckle up for a bumpy ride, ladies and gentlemen. It's about to get rough in Winnipeg.